The Great Hall of Station was the largest room Park had ever seen. It stretched out before her like a small city, with seats rising in circles around a central platform. Lights of every color floated in the air above, each one marking the position of a different species. 47 civilizations had gathered here today, 47 species that ruled the stars. And then there was Earth. Walked to the central platform with steady steps. Her shoes made soft sounds on the polished floor. She could feel thousands of eyes watching her. Some of those eyes were nothing like human eyes. Some species had no eyes at all, but they all watched. They all judged. She was 38 years old. She had spent 15 years training for this moment. She spoke 12 alien languages. She had memorized every trade law, every treaty, every custom of galactic diplomacy. She had left her family behind on Earth, knowing she might never return, all for this chance. Earth wanted to be more than a small voice in the galaxy. Earth wanted partnership, real partnership, the right to trade freely, the right to expand, the right to be treated as equals. Reached the platform and turned to face the assembly. Her translator device sat in her ear, ready to convert her words into 47 languages at once. "Honored delegates," she began. Her voice was calm and clear. "I come before you today on behalf of humanity, on behalf of Earth." She touched a small device on her wrist, and a display appeared in the air beside her. It showed Earth, a small blue world spinning in the darkness. Then it showed Mars with its small human colony. Then the 40 ships of Earth's fleet floating in neat formation. For 200 years, humanity has been part of galactic civilization. We have followed your laws, we have paid your tariffs, we have respected your borders. Paused and looked around the room. Today, we ask for more. We ask for elevated trade status. We ask for military partnership rights. We ask to be seen as true members of this community. For a moment the hall was silent, felt hope rise in her chest. Then the laughter began. It started from the section, a harsh, barking sound that echoed through the chamber. There were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. They had ruled their part of space for 12,000 years. Their delegate, Consul, stood up slowly. His teeth were sharp when he smiled. "Is this a joke?" His voice boomed through the hall. "Please tell me this is a joke." Kept her face still. "Consul, I assure you." "You assure me," laughed again. He waved one of his 4 arms at the display still floating beside. "Look at this. Look at what humanity brings to us." He touched his own device, and suddenly the display changed. It showed Earth's fleet in detail, every ship, every weapon, every specification. Data that should have been private. Data that someone had stolen and given to the 40 ships, said, making his voice sound amazed. 40 whole ships, with fusion drives that take months to cross a single sector, with weapons that might scratch the paint on a real warship. More laughter came from around the room. The insect-like clicked their mouthparts in amusement. The tall, pale looked away as if embarrassed to even see standing there. The round wobbled with what might have been giggles. Was not finished. He walked closer to the platform, his 4 arms spread wide. "Humanity has been spacefaring for 200 years. 200 years. Do you know how long they have ruled the stars? 12,000 years. Do you know how long they have built their hives across the galaxy? 9,000 years." He pointed at with one long finger. "You are children. No, you are bobbies. You have barely learned to crawl, and you come here asking to run with the great powers of the galaxy." Took a breath. "We have proven ourselves peaceful. We have contributed to." "You have contributed nothing." His voice turned hard. "You take up space in our shipping lanes. You slow down our trade with your primitive vessels. You ask for help with problems any real civilization would solve in a day." He looked around at the other delegates. "Humanity should be grateful we allow them to exist at all." Several delegates made sounds of agreement. The delegate spoke, their voice soft but cruel. "Perhaps we should discuss reducing human travel rights. Their ships are a hazard to proper traffic." An excellent idea, said the delegate, mandibles clicking. Restrict them to their own system. Let them play with their toys at home. Felt the blood drain from her face. This was not just rejection. This was worse. They were talking about pushing humanity backward, taking away rights they had earned through 2 centuries of perfect compliance. Please, she said, adding how her voice sounded. We came here in good faith. We asked for partnership, not charity. We are willing to work to prove ourselves. Prove yourselves, laughed one more time. You have proven yourselves already. You have proven that humanity is nothing, a small species on a small world with small dreams. He walked back to his seat. I call for a vote, reject Earth's petition, all in favor. The lights around the room changed, green for yes, red for no. Green, green, green. Every section of the hall lit up green. 47 species, unanimous in their rejection. Smiled at, know your place, little human. Be grateful for what you have, and never waste our time with such foolishness again. Stood alone on the platform. Her translator buzzed with insults in 40 languages. Someone called humans dirt walkers. Someone else called them slow minds. They made a clicking sound that translated to something so rude her device refused to repeat it. She wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. She wanted to tell them all that they were wrong, that humanity was more than they could imagine. But she did none of those things. Instead, Park bowed, a small, respectful bow just as she had been trained. Then she gathered her things and walked toward the exit. Her steps were steady. Her back was straight. She did not run. She did not show weakness. The laughter followed her all the way to the door. Outside the great hall found a quiet corner. She leaned against the wall and closed her eyes. Her hands were shaking. 2 centuries of diplomacy, and this was the result. Mockery, insults, new restrictions. She pulled out her communication device and typed a message to Earth. Just 8 words. They have made their position clear, coming home. Then she added one more line, a line that was not part of any official report, a line meant only for certain eyes. The council believes we are nothing. I recommend option Veil. Looked back at the great hall one last time. Through the windows she could see the delegates celebrating, was telling some story, making grand gestures with all 4 arms. Others gathered around him, enjoying the show. They had no idea what they had done. Smiled, a small, cold smile that no one saw. Then she walked away to find her ship and begin the long journey home. Behind her, the great powers of the galaxy continued their party, certain that they had put humanity in its place forever. They were wrong. The rain fell heavy over Seoul. It beat against the windows of the United Nations Space Command building like small fists demanding to be let in. Inside, deep underground where no rain could reach, 12 people sat around a table made of dark wood. Fleet Admiral Han-ho sat at the head of the table. He was 61 years old with gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen too much. He held a tablet in his hands, reading the same report for the 3rd time. Ambassador Park's words glowed on the screen. They have made their position clear. Around him sat the most powerful humans alive, military leaders, scientists, diplomats, the 12 members of Earth's Emergency Security Council. They had been called here in secret, arriving through tunnels that officially did not exist to a room that appeared on no map. Play the recording again, Han said. A screen on the wall flickered to life. The Great Hall of Station appeared. They watched Consul mock Ambassador Park. They watched the other delegates laugh. They watched 47 lights turn green to reject humanity's petition. When it ended, the room was silent. Dr. Bai broke the silence first. She was small and thin, with glasses that made her eyes look larger than they were. At 45, she ran Earth's most secret research program, a program so hidden that even most government leaders did not know it existed. They showed our fleet specifications, she said quietly. They had our exact numbers, our exact capabilities. They have spies everywhere, said General Moon Ho, the head of military intelligence. We've known this for years. Yes, Bai said, they spy on us. They watch everything we do. They monitor every ship we build, every weapon we make, every scientist we train. She paused. They watch the things we let them see. Admiral Han looked at her. Doctor, the Council needs to understand what you're suggesting. Bai stood up and walked to the screen. She touched it, and the image of the Galactic Council disappeared. In its place appeared a simple question: Project Veil authorization required. When humanity first made contact with galactic civilization 200 years ago, we made a discovery, a terrible discovery. Bai looked around the room. The galaxy is old, very old, and it has stopped growing. She pulled up charts and graphs. They reached their current technology level 9,000 years ago. They stopped advancing 8,000 years ago. All of them hit a wall thousands of years in the past and simply stopped. Admiral Moon leaned forward. Stopped, why? Because they have no reason to continue. They divided the galaxy among themselves long ago. They control all resources. They face no threats. They became comfortable. Bai's voice turned hard. They became lazy. She changed the display again. Now it showed Earth, but an Earth that looked different. Ships orbited the planet. Hundreds of ships. Ships that gleamed with technology far beyond anything the galaxy had seen. When we realized this, we made a choice that every human leader has kept secret for 200 years. Bai took a deep breath. We decided to pretend. The room went very still. We showed the galaxy exactly what they expected to see: primitive fusion drives, weak weapons, slow ships. We struggled with problems that we had actually solved decades ago. We asked for help we did not need. We played the role of the backward species perfectly. She touched the screen and technical data began to flow. In secret, we built something else. Project Veil, a hidden fleet, hidden technology, hidden capabilities that would take the galaxy thousands of years to match, if they could match them at all. Admiral Han spoke, show them. Bai nodded. The screen changed to show ships. Real ships, not the 40 old vessels that everyone knew about. These were sleek and dark, shaped like knives cutting through space. They had no visible engines, no obvious weapons. They looked like shadows given form. The Veil-class warship, Bai said. Quantum slip drive allows travel across the galaxy in hours, not months. Adaptive shields make them invisible to any sensor. Phase weapons can pass through any defense. She paused. We have 412 of them. We built them in shipyards hidden inside asteroids, on the dark side of moons, in places no one ever thought to look. General Park Sun-young, the youngest member of the council at 39, stared at the screen. 400 ships. How is this possible? The resources alone. We invented new manufacturing methods, Bai said simply. Methods that let us build in days what takes other species decades. Methods we never shared. Methods they never knew to look for. Admiral Han set down his tablet. For 200 years we have played their game. We have smiled when they insulted us. We have paid their unfair prices. We have accepted their restrictions. His voice was low and cold. We did this because we were not ready. We needed time. Time to build. Time to prepare. Time to make sure that when we finally revealed ourselves, there would be no doubt about what humanity could do. He looked around the table. Today, I believe we are ready. Doctor, how long until we can deploy the full network? 72 hours, Bai answered. Every ship, every station, every satellite can be activated and moved into position within 72 hours. And if the galaxy responds, if they attack? Bai almost smiled. Admiral, they cannot attack what they cannot find. And even if they could find us, they cannot hurt what they cannot understand. Our technology is not just better than theirs. It is different. It works on principles they have never discovered because they stopped looking thousands of years ago. The room fell silent again. Rain continued to fall outside, far above their heads. Admiral Moon spoke carefully. If we do this, there is no going back. We will be revealing 2 centuries of deception. Every species in the galaxy will know that humanity lied to them. They lied first, said Captain Sung. He was young for his rank, only 35, with sharp eyes and a reputation for being fearless. They promised us partnership. They promised us fair treatment. Instead, they spied on us, cheated us, and laughed at us. We simply played their game better than they did. Admiral Han nodded slowly. Captain is right, we owe them nothing. They had every chance to treat us with respect. They chose mockery instead. He stood up. I am calling for a vote. Do we activate Project Veil? Do we void every treaty we have ever signed with the Galactic Council? Do we show them what humanity truly is? One by one, hands rose around the table. 12 votes for yes. Han signed his name on the authorization document. The most important signature in human history, written in a room that did not exist, witnessed by people who would never speak of this night. Begin activation, he said, and someone send a message to Ambassador Park. Tell her to come home by the fastest route possible. She has earned the right to see what happens next. Captain stood at attention. Sir, with your permission, I would like to command the lead ship when we reveal ourselves. Han studied the young captain's face. He saw determination there. He saw hunger. He saw a man who had spent his whole life being told that humanity was less, that Earth was nothing, that he should be grateful for scraps from the galactic table. Permission granted, Captain. Choose your ship. His eyes gleamed. I already have, sir, the Veil 7. I've trained with that crew for 3 years waiting for this day. As the council members filed out through hidden tunnels, Dr. Bai stayed behind. She watched the screen, which now showed Earth from space. Soon, the galaxy would see a very different planet, not a weak world begging for acceptance, a world that had been quiet because it was waiting, a world that had been patient because it was preparing. 200 years, she whispered to herself. I hope they were worth it. Somewhere in deep space, Ambassador Park received her message. She read it 3 times to make sure she understood. Come home fastest route. Option Veil approved. The waiting is over. For the first time in days, smiled. Not a diplomatic smile, not a polite smile, a real smile full of dark satisfaction. She had stood alone in that great hall and accepted their insults. She had bowed and walked away like a defeated dog. She had played her part perfectly. Now it was time for humanity to stop playing. Consul was eating dinner when the first reports came. He sat in his private quarters aboard his personal ship, enjoying a meal of roasted beast and imported wine from the. Life was good. The memory of humiliating that human ambassador still made him smile. He had shown the galaxy what he thought of humanity's foolish dreams. He had put them in their place. His aide, a young named, burst through the door without knocking. This was strange. Was always proper, always respectful. For him to enter without permission meant something was very wrong. Consul said, his voice shaking, we have a problem. Set down his fork. What kind of problem? Earth's colony ships there, they're gone. Gone, laughed. Finally running away, good. Let them crawl back to their little rock and hide. No, sir, you don't understand. Came closer, his gray face pale. All of them, every human vessel in tracked space, every freighter, every transport, every station. They vanished from our sensors at the same moment, the exact same moment. Felt his foreheart skip a beat. That's impossible. I know, sir, but it happened. 47 minutes ago, every human signature in the galaxy just disappeared. Pushed away from his table and moved to his command center. Screens lit up around him, showing sensor data from across his territory. Where human ships had been, there was nothing. Empty space. No debris. No energy signatures. Nothing at all. What about Earth itself? Demanded. What about there? His hands trembled as he pulled up more data. We can't reach it, sir. The monitoring stations around Sol system, the ones we placed to watch them, they've all gone dark. Gone dark, all of them. All 47 stations. Silent. We sent probes to investigate. The probes disappeared too. Stared at the screens. For the first time in a very long time, he felt something he barely recognized. Fear. Across the galaxy, the same confusion was spreading. On the hive mothers gathered in their great chamber. Their mandibles clicked rapidly as reports came in from every corner of their territory. Human mining ships that had been working asteroid fields gone. Human traders at stations vanished without a word. Even the human ambassador's office on Prime was empty, as if no one had ever been there. How did they leave? The eldest hive mother demanded. Our sensors track everything. We do not know, her daughters admitted. There is no record of any ship departing. They were there and then they were not. They were a calm species. They prided themselves on logic and reason, but even they could not explain what had happened. Their scientists ran test after test on their sensor equipment, certain that something must be broken. Nothing was broken. The sensors worked perfectly. There was simply nothing to detect. Perhaps they destroyed themselves, one suggested hopefully. Some kind of accident that eliminated their entire species at once. All of them at the exact same moment, with no trace left behind. Another shook her head. No accident could do that. This was planned. This was deliberate. But that would mean they had technology we never detected. Technology beyond anything we thought they possessed. They looked at each other in growing horror. The Galactic Council called an emergency session. For the first time in memory, delegates arrived looking frightened instead of bored. The great hall of station, which had echoed with laughter just days ago, was now filled with worried whispers. We must find them, declared the delegate, his round body quivering with anxiety. We must know what they are doing. Find them how? Asked the delegate. They are invisible to every sensor we possess. We have sent hundreds of ships to search. They found nothing. Then search harder, use more ships. We have used thousands of ships. They search empty space. The humans are gone. Consul listened to the arguments with growing unease. He had spent the last 3 days trying to understand what had happened. He had used every resource at his command. He had called in favors from intelligence agents across the galaxy. He had learned nothing. Except one thing. One terrible thing that he was not yet ready to share. His best spy, who had spent 40 years watching human space, had sent one final message before disappearing. Just 3 sentences that made no sense. They were never what they seemed. I have seen their ships. There are so many. Then silence. The delegate, a creature made mostly of crystal that changed color with emotion, spoke in a voice like breaking glass. We must consider a possibility that frightens us all. We must consider that we have made a mistake. What mistake? Demanded, though he already knew the answer. We assumed the humans were primitive because they seemed primitive. We assumed their technology was weak because it looked weak. We assumed they were harmless because they acted harmless. This body flickered with dark colors. What if we were wrong? What if they were hiding their true capabilities all along? Impossible, shouted, but his voice cracked. We watched them for 200 years. We monitored every ship they built. We had spies in their government, their military, their research centers. We watched what they wanted us to see, they replied quietly. We saw what they allowed us to see. Our spies reported what they were permitted to report. The hall fell silent. For the first time, the great powers of the galaxy understood what might have happened. They had been so certain of their superiority, so confident that no young species could possibly match them. They had never considered that humanity might be playing a different game entirely. A game of patience, a game of deception, a game that had lasted 200 years. Far from station in the darkness between stars, Ambassador Park stood on the bridge of a ship called Veil 7. Through the windows she could see Earth, Not the Earth she had left, but Earth surrounded by ships. Real ships. Ships that moved like ghosts through the void. Captain Sung stood beside her. The recall is complete. Every human vessel, every station, every satellite has returned to Sol space. We're all home. And the monitoring stations? Disabled, their probes too. Nothing can see into our system now. Watched the fleet arrange itself in perfect formation. 400 warships, plus thousands of support vessels. More firepower than any species in the galaxy possessed. More technology than any species in the galaxy understood. How long before we reveal ourselves? She asked. Admiral Han wants to give them 3 days to wonder, to worry, to feel what it's like to not know what's coming, smiled grimly. I think he wants them to understand fear. They mocked us, said softly. They called us children. They said we should be grateful to exist. Yes. Now they will learn the truth. On station, the Galactic Council continued to argue through the night. They argued about what to do, about who was to blame, about what humanity could possibly be planning. They argued until their voices gave out. But no amount of arguing could change one simple fact. Humanity was gone, and no one knew where they were or what they were doing. The great powers of the galaxy had spent thousands of years believing they controlled everything. They had mapped every star, claimed every resource, written every law. They had built an empire that stretched across the cosmos. And now, for the first time, they realized that there was something in the darkness they could not see. Something patient, something clever, something that had been watching them and learning from them for 200 years. Something that was no longer willing to hide. Consul stood alone in his quarters, staring out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the humans were waiting. Somewhere out there, they were preparing something. He did not know what it was. He only knew that he was afraid. 3 days of silence, 3 days of fear, 3 days of the greatest powers in the galaxy staring into the darkness and seeing nothing. Then the darkness spoke. Every screen in station flickered at once. Every display, every monitor, every personal device held by every delegate, all of them went dark for exactly 1 second. Then they lit up with the same image. Ambassador Park stood on a bridge unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The walls behind her curved with smooth, dark metal that seemed to absorb light. Strange symbols glowed softly in colors that hurt to look at directly. And through the great windows behind her, an endless fleet stretched into the distance. Was no longer wearing the simple diplomatic robes she had worn days ago. Now she wore a uniform of black and silver, with a symbol on her shoulder that no species recognized. Her face was calm. Her voice was steady. "Good evening," she said. "I believe you have been looking for us." The great hall of station erupted in chaos. Delegates shouted over each other, demanding explanations, demanding answers. Their voices became a roar of confusion and fear. Consul pushed to the front of his section. His 4 arms were shaking, but he forced himself to speak. "This is a violation of 17 treaties. You have attacked our monitoring stations. You have disrupted our communications. You cannot." "We voided those treaties," interrupted. Her voice was not loud, but somehow it cut through all the noise. All of them. Every agreement humanity ever signed with the Galactic Council. We sent formal notification 72 hours ago. We received no notification. We sent it, almost smiled. Perhaps your systems were too busy trying to find us to notice. The chaos grew louder. Several delegates were trying to contact their home fleets, demanding that warships be sent immediately. Others were running for the exits, convinced that the station was about to be destroyed. The delegates clicked their mandibles so fast it sounded like a storm of breaking sticks. Then a new figure appeared on the screens beside. A young man with sharp eyes and the same black uniform. Captain Sung stepped forward with his hands clasped behind his back. "Allow me to clarify Earth's new position," said. We are no longer part of the Galactic Council. We do not accept your authority. We do not recognize your borders. We do not follow your laws." He paused. "We owe you nothing." The delegate's voice shook. "You cannot do this. You are one species against 47. Our combined fleets number in the hundreds of thousands." "I know," replied. "We have counted them." Nodded to someone off-screen. "Perhaps a demonstration is in order." Outside station, space itself seemed to ripple. The delegates rushed to the windows, their arguments forgotten. Ships appeared out of nothing. One moment there was empty space. The next moment there were human vessels, hundreds of them, then thousands. They materialized like ghosts becoming solid, like shadows taking form. Each ship was sleek and dark, shaped like a blade made for cutting through reality. They surrounded the station in a perfect sphere, appearing from every direction at once. No sensors had detected their approach. No alarms had sounded. They had been there the entire time, invisible, waiting. Consul felt his legs go weak. He grabbed the railing in front of him to keep from falling. This was impossible. This was against every law of physics he knew. Ships could not simply appear from nowhere. Ships could not hide from sensors. Sensors were the best in the galaxy. But there they were. Thousands of impossible ships, forming an unbroken wall around the station that held every galactic power. On screen, continued speaking as if nothing special had happened. "We have been preparing for this day since the moment you first looked down on us, since the moment you decided we were less than you." Her eyes found the camera that broadcast to section. "Since the moment you laughed." Admiral Han Ho's face appeared on a new screen. He was on a different ship, larger than the others, a vessel that looked like it could swallow a dreadnought whole. "For 200 years, the galaxy has taught humanity lessons," Han said. "You taught us that no one would help us. You taught us that we could only rely on ourselves. You taught us that strength was the only thing you respected." He leaned forward. "We learned those lessons well." The delegate spoke, their crystal body flickering with fear colors. "What do you want? Resources, territory. We can negotiate, we can." "Negotiate?" Han's voice turned cold. "You had 200 years to negotiate fairly. Instead, you charged us triple tariffs because you could. You banned us from resource-rich systems because you wanted them for yourselves. You restricted our expansion because you were afraid we might grow strong." "Too late now," added. "We grew strong anyway." Dr. Bai appeared on yet another screen, this one showing a laboratory filled with equipment that no species recognized. "Let me explain what you are facing," she said. "Our ships use quantum slip drives. They fold space itself to travel. Crossing the galaxy takes hours, not months. Your fastest vessels could not escape us if they tried." She changed the display to show technical diagrams. "Our shields adapt to any weapon. Energy beams, plasma, kinetics. They all become useless after the first shot. Our weapons phase through matter at will. We could fire through your shields as if they were not there." The diagrams grew more complex. "Our sensors can see through any form of stealth. We knew the location of every spy you placed in our territory. We let them report what we wanted them to report." She paused. "And our manufacturing technology allows us to build a warship in 4 days. You take decades. Do the math." Silence fell over the great hall. The delegates stared at the screens, at the fleet outside their windows, at each other. No one knew what to say. Consul found his voice first. It came out weak and thin, nothing like the booming confidence of a few days ago. You deceived us for 200 years. Everything you showed us was a lie." "Not a lie," replied. "A choice. We chose to appear weak. We chose to let you underestimate us. We chose to wait until we were ready." Her voice hardened. "And you chose to mock us, to insult us, to laugh at our request for basic respect." She stepped closer to the camera. Her face filled the screens throughout the station. "You called us children. You said we should be grateful to exist. You asked what we contributed to the galaxy." Smile was thin and sharp. Now you know, we contributed patience, we contributed planning, we contributed 200 years of silent preparation while you celebrated your superiority. The fleet outside shifted. The ships moved in perfect coordination, forming new patterns around the station. It was a display of control that should have been impossible, thousands of vessels acting as one, without any visible communication. "Here is what happens now," Admiral Hand said. "We will establish our own trade routes, our own colonies, our own territory, without asking permission. Any species that chooses to deal with us fairly will find us to be generous partners. We hold no grudges against those who simply ignored us." His eyes found Consul's section. "But those who mocked us, who insulted us, who laughed at our dreams, you will receive nothing from us. No trade, no partnership, no mercy when you come begging." Tried to speak, but no words came out. His throat was dry, his hands trembled. He had stood in this same hall 3 days ago and called humanity nothing. He had led the laughter. He had suggested new restrictions. Now he stood surrounded by human ships, facing human weapons, hearing human terms. And there was nothing he could do about it. "We are not here to conquer," said, her voice softening just slightly. "We are not here to destroy. We are here to correct a misunderstanding. You thought we were weak because we were peaceful. You were wrong. We were peaceful because we were patient. And now our patience has run out." She looked around at all the delegates, her image appearing on every screen in the station. "The galaxy has a new power. Learn to live with it, because we are not going anywhere." The screens went dark. Outside the windows, the human fleet remained, silent, motionless, surrounding the station like a cage made of starlight. In the great hall, no one spoke for a very long time. Finally, Consul sat down heavily in his seat. His legs would no longer support him. Around him, the other delegates whispered in horror. They looked to him for guidance, for reassurance, for some sign that everything would be okay. He had none to give. For 12,000 years, they had been masters of their portion of space. For 12,000 years, no one had dared to challenge them. Now a species barely 2 centuries old had done what no one else had ever done. They had made the afraid. Panic spread through station like fire through dry grass. Delegates screamed at their aides. They clicked their mandibles in rapid patterns that meant extreme distress. They rolled back and forth, their round bodies trembling with fear. They tried to maintain their famous calm, but their pale faces had turned even paler. Everyone was trying to contact their home fleets. Everyone was demanding that ships be sent to rescue them. Everyone was certain that the humans were about to open fire. But the human fleet did not fire. It simply waited, surrounding the station in perfect formation, as silent and patient as it had been for 200 years. Consul stared at his communication device. The screen showed nothing but static. All signals leaving the station were being blocked, not destroyed, just stopped. Selective jamming, precise and total. "We cannot reach anyone," one of his aides reported. "Fleet command, embassy ships, nothing gets through." "Then find a way around it," snarled. "We have the best engineers in the galaxy. We have technology 1,000 times more advanced than—" He stopped. The words died in his throat. Because they were not more advanced, were they? Everything they had believed about their superiority was wrong. On the screens throughout the station, Ambassador Park appeared again. She stood in the same place on that strange bridge, but now she looked almost relaxed. Behind her, Captain Sung watched with arms crossed. "I understand you are trying to contact your fleets," said. "Please stop. We are blocking all outgoing communications for your own protection. Some of you might say things in panic that you would regret later." She paused. "We are not here to harm you. We are here to talk." The delegate pushed forward, their crystal body flashing with desperate colors. "Talk. You have surrounded us with warships. You have cut off our communications. This is an act of war." "No," replied. "This is a demonstration. If we wanted war, you would already be dead." The words hung in the air. No one doubted they were true. Continued, "We have demands, terms if you prefer that word. Listen carefully because we will only say this once." She gestured, and a list appeared on every screen in the station. First, humanity will establish its own sphere of influence. We will claim the territories we have selected and we will colonize them as we see fit. No restrictions, no permissions, no tariffs. Found his voice. Those territories contain mining operations. You cannot simply. Your mining operations will be relocated. We will give you 60 days to remove them peacefully. After 60 days, they become ours. This is theft. This is what you have done to smaller species for thousands of years. His voice was cold. They asked to mine a single asteroid belt. You said no. The needed resources to rebuild after a plague. You said no. You took what you wanted because you were strong and you expected everyone else to accept it. She stared directly at the camera. Accept it. The second term appeared on the screens. Second, humanity will establish free trade routes throughout the galaxy. Any species that wishes to trade with us may do so without interference. Any species that blocks our traders will face consequences. What kind of consequences? The delegate demanded. That depends on how badly you interfere. Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Test us if you wish, see what happens. The third term appeared. Third, the Galactic Council will remove all monitoring stations from Sol space. No species will spy on humanity again. Any spy we catch will be returned to there in whatever condition we consider appropriate. Several delegates shifted uncomfortably. Everyone knew how many spies they had placed in human territory. Everyone was suddenly very worried about those spies. The fourth term appeared. Fourth, the Galactic Council will issue a formal apology for 200 years of unfair treatment. This apology will be broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Everyone will know what you did to us, and everyone will know that you were wrong. His face twisted with rage. An apology? You want us to humiliate ourselves? Never. Do not apologize to anyone. Turned to look directly at him. You humiliated Ambassador Park 3 days ago. You laughed at her. You called humanity nothing. You led the mockery that united 47 species against us. She stepped closer to the camera. Her face filled the screens. Now you will apologize publicly in front of every species in the galaxy. You will say that you were wrong. You will say that humanity deserves respect. Her voice dropped to something barely above a whisper. And you will mean it, because if you don't, we will remember, and we have very, very long memories. The fifth term appeared. Fifth, any species that wishes to ally with humanity may do so freely. We will offer technology and assistance to those who showed us kindness during our dark years. We will not forget who helped us, just as we will not forget who hurt us. The delegate, a small creature with soft fur who had remained silent throughout the crisis, looked up with hope in their large eyes. They had always been kind to humans. They had traded fairly. They had spoken against restrictions. They had been mocked for it by larger species. Now their kindness might finally be rewarded. Admiral Hand's face appeared besides. These terms are not negotiable. You will accept them, or you will face the alternative. What alternative? The delegate asked quietly. Isolation. Hand's voice was flat. Complete total isolation from human space. No trade, no communication, no assistance. When your enemies come for you and you have enemies, all of you do, we will watch. We will not help. We will remember every insult, every restriction, every tariff, and we will let you face the consequences alone. The delegates looked at each other. They understood the threat. The galaxy was not peaceful. There were border disputes, old hatreds, conflicts that had been simmering for centuries. They had enemies who would love to see them weakened. They had rivals who watched their territory with hungry eyes. Even they had species that their wealth. Without the balance of power they had maintained for so long, old wars might begin again. And if humanity chose to support one side over another, the results could be devastating. Consul stood slowly, his 4 arms hung at his sides, all their strength gone. You leave us no choice. No, agreed. We don't, that is the point. She looked around at all the delegates through the screens that carried her image. For 200 years you left us no choices. You told us where we could go, what we could buy, how fast we could grow. You treated us like servants in the house of the galaxy. Her voice softened just slightly. We are not asking for revenge. We are not asking to rule you. We are asking for respect. Real respect, not the kind that comes from treaties signed under threat. We want to be partners in this galaxy, not servants. But, she continued, partnership requires trust, and trust must be earned. You hurt us for 200 years. You will have to work hard to make us believe you have changed. The screens showed the human fleet one more time. Thousands of ships, hanging in space like a promise and a warning. You have 24 hours to accept our terms. After that, we leave. And once we leave, we will not offer partnership again. You will have made your choice, and you will live with it forever. The screens went dark. For a long moment, no one in the Great Hall spoke. Then, slowly, the delegates began to talk among themselves. Not shouting now, not arguing, planning. Some were already accepting defeat. The rolled toward the, suggesting that together they might approach the humans for favorable treatment. The began calculating the economic impact of the new trade routes. They were practical people, and they saw opportunity in change. They were more stubborn. Their hive mothers buzzed with anger, discussing ways to resist, to fight back. But even they could see the truth. Their fleets were powerful, but not powerful enough. Their technology was advanced, but not advanced enough. And Consul sat alone in his seat, staring at his hands. 4 arms that had once commanded respect throughout the galaxy. 4 arms that had waved dismissively at a human ambassador who dared to ask for fairness. He had laughed at her. He had called her species nothing. Now he would have to apologize to her, in front of everyone. Part of him wanted to refuse. Part of him wanted to choose isolation, to maintain pride at any cost. But he was old enough to know what that would mean. They had survived for 12,000 years by being practical, by knowing when to fight and when to submit. This was a time to submit. He would apologize. He would mean it. And he would spend the rest of his life knowing that a species he had mocked had brought him to his knees. Above station, the human fleet waited in patient silence. They had waited 200 years for this moment. They could wait 24 more hours.